Welcome to Breakfast Central today, and thank you so much for joining us. We sincerely apologize for starting a bit behind schedule, but we want to tell you that we are indeed back, and it is a Wednesday. Hopefully, you did not, like they say in the African parents, you did not see the rain from yesterday, but I'm going to ask Benga if you did. Benga, how was it for you?
I saw the rain. It was almost the breeze before the rain. It was almost tornado-like, and I was driving, so I had to rush back home. Thankfully, I go home safely, and I'm here in full body, spirit, and mind, and I'm very excited about today's show. As always, it's Breakfast Central, and one thing I have to, I'm myself religious now, one thing I have to thank the Lord for is that I have the pleasure of working with wonderful people like you and Olive.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those
Thank you
kind
so much.
words,
Olive, looking beautiful as always.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you
to
so
have
much.
you.
Great minds. I just realized you're matching.
Beautiful, and I must commend. It's just very sad, and maybe something our directors can look at. Have like a helicopter view, a drone shot, because your shoes are delectable.
Thank you so much.
Don't you agree?
I agree, 100%.
Don't worry,
Olive is always
People at
giving.
home will have the pleasure of seeing a beautiful. Do like this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Olive is always giving, whether you like it or not.
Well,
So,
everybody is not the subject of today's conversation.
Yeah.
You guys focus. So this morning on the show, a number of stories. We'll be sharing with you what our top stories are today. But before then, let's bring you wake-up conversations. Interesting reports regarding electricity in our Aso Rock. So reports have it that monies have been budgeted to transition the energy in the Aso Rock to solar, and there's been criticism about this. We've seen a number of people saying that the president who should be powering the nation in a way has forgotten about the rest of the nation and is trying to sort out Aso Rock. So Aso Rock is going ahead. So there are the positives and the negatives. The positives, of course, would be everyone championing the course for clean energy, the fact that we're moving towards renewable energy, joining the rest of the world to have conversations in this regard. The criticism is because Nigeria has struggled so much with the power sector. We've been unable to provide consistent energy supply, especially because of this band allocation, band A, band B, band C, which people have referred to as a fraudulent
or a scam.
Exactly, as a fraudulent.
Or banditry.
Yes. So, I mean, that's the result of this. So I think we should ask Nigerians what they think about Aso Rock moving to solar energy, and you know what that will mean.
You know, it was part of Mr. President's campaign. I'm sure you both recall one of his famous speeches where he said, look, if I can't guarantee you electricity in 4 years, please don't vote me. Kick me out. He has 2 more years, but he has, it feels like he's abandoned ship with this solar mood. Like you said, there's the plus for renewable and clean energy, and there's also the negative side of it, that, oh, you're leaving the rest of Nigerians and you're sorting yourself out while the rest of us have to grapple with PHC and what have you. There's also the cost implication. That's about $7 million.
So they're doing 10 billion is the budget to ensure that the Aso Rock is powered by solar energy. So the solar power installation, yes, will cost 10 billion naira. If you look
at the figures in terms of 10 billion naira, you would start. I mean, Benga, you said something here that got me thinking. If a government is championing, electricity, and therefore the minister has come before the National Assembly or the Joint Assembly, and they've given a scorecard. Recently again. They did the second one. I don't know if you remember. The first one was the one that led to the exit
hiring and firing.
Yes, hiring and firing. And the second time there was a vote of confidence that the minister was doing very well. And if the minister is doing very well, you wonder why all of a sudden people are now complaining about the band A being a scam. One, two. There are certain moves I feel that you shouldn't do, or you shouldn't make known in public, that, we want to install solar panels for 10 billion naira. Look at that figure.
That's about $7 million. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
But Aso Rock is complex.
we're in a world where China is already having, like, roads that run on solar, shares, car parks. People can, charge their phones and so on. They're developed countries. We see that. It also reminds me of one thing. If we're spending this much on solar panels, what's the message we're sending out, like you've rightly said, to us, Nigerians? It's a case of saying, find your way.
Exactly.
Or are they also saying that they do not believe in the almighty national grid?
Remember that the national grid collapsed as well. Do you guys remember that Aso Rock also faced its own challenges when they said they've not paid?
You're right. And they're also priority service for PHCN. So why, if the highest office in the land is not guaranteed electricity, then
there's problem
about the rest of the serious problem.
So just to mention that, it's important that a nation like ours that has so much natural resources, gas, sunlight, water, we haven't been able to harness these natural resources. We've talked about it many times on the show, how you go abroad and you're seeing them having the wind turbines. They have all these ways in
different
which
energy mixes.
Exactly, to maximize natural resources. We haven't quite done that here in Nigeria, and I think that we should join the rest of the world to have conversations about renewable energy. But the main criticism that comes from this is, one, the fact that the rest of Nigeria is struggling with power. It's terrible. Yesterday on the front pages of the newspaper, KEDC was being criticized for, people saying that we're having only 2 hours, light per day, 2 hours in 24 hours. Businesses, manufacturers were being impacted heavily. Nigerians were buying things ridiculously expensive. Just yesterday, someone was saying to me how since the Easter break, they haven't even had a blink of power supply.
Well, that's terrible.
Yesterday, when I got home, I also asked, and they said there was no power all through yesterday. Up until I left home this morning, there was no power. You see, I think it's high time we revisit this, and everyone looks at it carefully. Is it working? Is it not working? And then we move ahead.
And just to mention also, how are they getting the solar? Remember that there was a talks of potentially banning the importation of solar panels. So are these solar panels going to be locally manufactured? Are they going to import it, and maybe after importing their own, they will ban? So, it's just
we don't even have the capacity to take care
even the clarity with which this will be done.
Yes.
Not just of communication, but the contract, who's going to handle it. So I think just again, it reemphasizes the trust deficits that Nigerians have.
It's really painful that in 2025 we're having a conversation about power. We grew up shouting up NEPA. We're adults, we have children, and they're screaming up NEPA.
It's one someone terrible. Said. I did overhear someone on a radio station. I can't remember one of the radio stations, not in Lagos, they're far off, and the person called in, and the person said that it's quite sad that in this time and age, we've been talking about bad roads till now. We've been talking about electricity. We're talking about every single thing till now. Nothing. It seems like nothing is happening.
So if someone died in 1982, 81, around the Shagari campaign, and they came back to life and listened to campaign speeches of politicians that are vying for 2027, if they died and woke up in 2026 campaign season, you would have missed out 40 years. And in 40 years, we're still talking about the same issues. Just have a deep reflection on that. And it just tells you about the state
repeating it. Rinse repeats the same issues. And if we're not careful, we'll talk about this in another 20 years. The next set of TV presenters on the morning show will be discussing.
Yeah, we would have left. The next set that we will still talk about the same thing.
Exactly.
Larry King did broadcasting until his 80s. So who said 20 years is not such a long time?
So I'm just saying that to say that our children and their children, unfortunately, I always reference the book, that Chinua Achebe book, The Problem with Nigeria, the trouble with Nigeria, because the same things he complained about, poor leadership and how it's led us to the poor quality of life that we have, are the same things that we're talking about again in 2025. But let's move away from that to Niger State. Who wants to take that?
Niger State is going through its own challenges in terms of thuggery, which happens to be a major problem in the state. If you also recall that aside from Niger State, there are other northern states, which we all know they're all going through their own fair share of insecurity, banditry, you name it, here and there. But the Niger State governor did speak, and he spoke very tough yesterday. In a video that you're about to see, which was, put on social media, it showed the governor spitting fire, let me use that word, where he said going forward he's going to match thuggery for thuggery, is going to match the fight for another fight against ensuring that no insecurity, no banditry, no activities, no criminality will be accepted in the state. In other words,
really make this up,
he's in short, just listen.
Let them take a look at this video and pay attention to his beard gang as you watch this video.
Just listen.
To rascality in Mina. Anybody that you find with barber or dreadlock, arrest him, barb his hair, and fine him. Nobody should carry any kind of health record again inside Mina. I have given you marching order, the security agencies. Anybody you find with a weapon, deal with him as an armed robber. So for parents, warn your children, warn your wards. From this moment, is 100% fire for fire. Any attempt to harass any security officer is an attempt to harass the government of Niger State. We are going to come with the full force of power of the government and descend on you. And any house found harboring criminals should be demolished. Urban Development Board, bring it down. NDLA, ADC, and other agencies clamp down on drug dealers. 0% tolerance in Niger State. And Niger State is not for useless people. If you can't take care of your children, we'll take care of them for you. We'll take care of them for you.
Those are the golden words of Governor Umar Bago of Niger State.
I think we're compliant. Johansson can do business in Niger State, very responsible looking.
Some of our colleagues need to be wary though. Likes of Edewo,
Sam Danny,
what's that? Tabaika. They need to really be
they
careful.
will tap at their head.
Baba, straight up. Jokes apart, that is the most unconstitutional utterance I've heard in a long time. How can a sitting governor of a state sit down and make such statements? First of all, it insults the fight against insecurity, weakening the systems to just making them judged by appearance. It makes our security agencies look like they're not serious, they're not trained, and they don't exactly know what they're doing. It also pours spit on the fight against insecurity by young people, going back to the NSAS protest in 2020, when young people put themselves on the line protesting against police profiling, against extrajudicial killings, and a number of people unfortunately lost their lives in that fight. This statement is an insult to all the people who came out to protest, to all the young people who unfortunately lost their lives at that protest. Now, again, we forget that when it comes to dreadlocks, for some people, it is a part of their spirituality. You cannot take that away. They're the Rastafarians, they're the traditionalists who believe that this is a part of their religion. There are people who tell you that as part of their religion, they're not meant to cut their hair. You are again disenfranchising them. The Constitution guarantees freedom of religious expression. There's so many angles to look at this from. It is unconstitutional. You're stripping them of their human rights, and any law enforcement agent who acts on that should actually be checked. I do believe, I'm hoping that everybody speaks up against
Exactly. He doesn't have the constitutional
There's no right
to do
Since
that.
when did he become a law enforcement agent? And since when did he become someone who writes laws for Nigeria? So they will pick up young boys and start scraping their hair. In fact, if you go further in that video,
you should remember we're in a democracy.
I want them to come out and tell me that that video was doctored with AI and that the governor did not actually say that. I really want to believe that they will tell me that. Do you know he went further to say that houses that are housing criminals or whatever should be demolished? Don't we have laws in Nigeria? Do we have a legal system that works? Is this a draconian
I think
regime?
it's just a wake-up call. It's not. I don't think he really. I shouldn't even assume that.
There's no assumption.
There's
you
no
can't
assumption.
be a person in office and not be wary of the kind of things that you say, knowing that, I mean, all the president needed to say was subsidy is gone, and it automatically changed the.
Yeah, the words are very powerful.
Words are very powerful. So you know that the position that you occupy is a position of influence. And whilst I must commend maybe the idea of wanting to fight insecurity, wanting to take the bull by the horn, this is absolutely no way to go about it.
His Excellency Farmer Bago. Umaru Bago. Interesting developments there. What do you make of the Rastafarians that might be moving to neighboring states because there will no longer be I in Niger State? Why are you guys laughing, man?
You know, sometimes when people join us on Breakfast Central Wake Up Conversations, we try to make light of the critical stories, especially those that we know are not so critical that we can make light of, because we just need to relax our shoulders a bit. The stress is just too much. Yeah. Not just, if it's too much on us as broadcast journalists, I can imagine what it is like on the people.
So,
who
Joe,
have to deal
picture
with
the
it.
scenario. We're in Niger State now.
I know you're going there.
The Rastafarians watching Breakfast Central, and they hear Farmer Umaru Bago threatening to cut everybody's hair. The next step will be I going to Babylon and Zion in Kaduna State. They will relocate.
But then again, I mean, for our viewers who have joined us, I mean, like I said, we'll make light of the situation, but let's bring it down. Let's look at this scenario very closely, guys. His Excellency, the Governor of Niger State, Mr. Umaru Bago, has made a statement. The truth is this: Niger State is just very close to the federal capital, not far off, and also close, it's central, okay? Central Nigeria. It's not far from Kebbi, it's not far from Katsina, and we know how prone these areas are to insecurity. Now, we would want to say, we commend you for coming out to speak and say, listen, we need to beef up our security. It starts from ensuring that we do not condone any form of thuggery, any form of this. And he highlighted these things and said, one, anybody you see with a weapon, ensure that you deal with him, and so on and so forth. I get all of that. But I think the manner in which it's being said should be looked into, because we all know what happens in Nigeria. When you make such statements,
they will take
the police will take advantage.
Exactly. Let's not even deny the fact that what he's saying is, whether we like it or not, a current representation of how some of our law enforcement agents think. The moment they see you on dreads, they see you in colored hair, you know, as a man, they see you in shorts, they just assume, this one is an internet fraudster. Forgetting that the world is evolving.
I mean, we're out of time.
There are bankers that allow their
medical
staff
doctors, professors,
that
university professors.
They're creatives, you know, and
now,
so on.
young people are exploring. I hosted an event for a bank, and I got there, and their graduate trainees had cornrows, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, the banks have all of a sudden softened on that, because, see, the world has changed. But then again, like I said, we're out of time. But then again, this is a conversation that I think the governor should come out and do another video and explain that he didn't mean it that way, because there could be blood on some people's hands with this statement, because a lot of people will be like, leave me alone, and then it becomes a fisticuff, and then because, you know, what if you see someone who has a weapon and is going to carry out a job, and when he said weapon, what do you define as a weapon? You see, don't just make statements, and this comes, I mean, I'm sorry to our producer, I know we're taking a lot of time, and sorry to our guests who has joined, but we need to make this clear because we have people watching. This is where we say you need to understand public relations and the etiquettes of communication. If you're a student of communication, you would understand that you don't just make certain statements. Grandiose statements like subsidy is gone. We saw what happened, right? And you come out and say anybody that's seen with weapon, anybody that's seen with haircut, guess what will happen going forward? We'll see it.
And the message we are even passing to the international community is that we're people that have no respect for the rule of law, and that's not a good
it's human rights.
At the end of the day, when we're talking about wanting foreign direct investments and the likes, we don't want to keep passing off, you know, passing that image to international investors that we don't regard human rights. What we've done is bad enough. We have so much more to go. But let's hear what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central. Top stories on Breakfast Central. Presidency budgets 10 billion naira for solar power in Aso Rock Villa. Malians behind incessant attacks in Benue, Governor Alia says. And away from that, migration spikes as 22,000 Nigerians seek asylum in the United Kingdom. Security experts condemn Plateau, Benue attacks and offer solutions. And the newspaper front pages will open the phone lines for you to call in. Join us for all these and more on Breakfast Central.
The recent spate of attacks in Bokos and Bassa local government areas, which left dozens dead, many injured, and property destroyed, has left Nigerians questioning the root causes of the violence. Is it about land grabbing, farmer-herder clashes, or statements attributed to one Garba Abdullahi?
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Some former heads of Nigeria's security agencies have reacted to the continued wave of violent attacks plaguing parts of Plateau State. Former Chief of Air Staff, retired Air Marshal John William, and ex-military sole administrator of Plateau State, retired Rear Admiral Bitrus Atukum, spoke separately to journalists about the deteriorating situation. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe has more.
The recent spate of attacks in Bokos and Bassa local government areas, which left dozens dead, many injured, and property destroyed, has left Nigerians questioning the root causes of the violence. Is it about land grabbing, farmer-herder clashes, or statements attributed to one Garba Abdullahi, who allegedly issued conditions for peace to return to Plateau State?
It is clear this man was speaking on behalf of the Fulani herdsmen, and he was speaking from Kaduna. Government now has relevant information as to where they could start the investigation. We cannot allow Nigerians, under the pretext of freedom of speech, to be making this kind of speech at a few days after the killings. These are unprovoked attacks.
And farmers clash. I don't believe in that. These are terrorists. These are armed terrorists that went and inflicted, this havoc on the people. These attacks have been deliberate and coordinated and systematic, for that matter.
For these retired security chiefs, potential solutions include the establishment of state police, or what many describe as self-defense.
I would have expected that on the plateau, where you have hills and mountains, small ones, that are being inhabited by these Fulani herdsmen, what is the difficulty in ordering the army to go and fish them up from there? These people come down from these hills, commit havoc and disappear there. And that is where they hide their weapons. So I just believe, in addition to what they are doing, they can do more.
And the youth should organize themselves into vigilante groups and provide security, intelligence to the security agency that will be used to prevent some of this attack. So it is my advice to our people to defend ourselves. We must defend ourselves.
Whether these proposals will be transformed into practical, effective actions remain to be seen. For now, the hope is that the people of Plateau can begin to live and thrive peacefully despite lingering socio-cultural divisions. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Aniyoe.
We'll continue to do all that we can here on Breakfast Central to highlight the unfortunate killings in Nigeria, in the insecurity that the people on the plateau have to deal with. And once again, our hearts go out to them. Let's now move on to talk about a story that made the front pages of the papers yesterday. Recent reports have it that over 22,000 Nigerians have sought asylum in the United Kingdom since 2010. What's fueling this trend, and what does it mean for Nigeria?
Well, that's right. This isn't just about the numbers, it's about lives, choices, and the search for safety. Well, joining us now for today's discussion is Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa, and we'll be taking a look at this. I mean, I'm sure migration is nothing new to you. All your years in the United States of America, you've possibly heard about how Nigerians have migrated in search of a better life and a better condition. Well, let's talk about the UK now, another country you're so familiar with as well. Can you share with us what this portends, what this means, especially in the light that the United Kingdom had ensured that they review the processes in which Nigerians come into the country so that they can curb the numbers. But it's looking like the numbers are not going to drop anytime soon. What's your take on this?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I want to make a distinction between me coming to America and somebody seeking asylum or running because of certain issues in their own homeland that make them want to leave. You know, this is, asylum seekers are people who, have fear of, being persecuted in their homeland, and then they're going to have to, seek, refuge, in the neighboring country. But the thing is, UK is not a neighboring country to Nigeria, so it's questionable how they are in UK claiming to be seeking asylum, because asylum says you have to go to the nearest country of peace. So that would have been either Cameroon, Niger, Chad, Togo. I think those are the countries that, but what comes to mind is, let's not go even back into the amalgamation of 1914, or even independence of 60. Let's go to 1999, when we have civilian government. The current civilian, administrations have started since 1999. So if democracy is a panacea for economic development, how come Nigerians are finding difficulty living in their own country? There's a lot of internal security issues. There are a lot of things now that are forcing Nigerians to, flee, not even leave, flee their country. It's because the leadership, since Obasanjo of 1999 to the present guy, Tinubu, they haven't been able to figure out a condition that is conducive for Nigerians to find peace at home. And that is a challenge for everybody. You don't have to be president. In order to do that, you have to engage your leadership. And one thing Nigerians haven't been able to do is to engage those who stand in front of them as their senators or House members or House Assembly members, commissioners and president. They haven't been able to do it. Because when Nigerian leaders talk, they talk at Nigerians. They don't talk with Nigerians. Make a distinction of that. Most Nigerians talk at. When they begin to talk with, then that means they are paying attention, they are listening, and then they're going to make effort to find solution for those things they are listening. But so far they're not doing it. Didn't what Tinubu just come back from France for how many days it was there, and how many times has it been there? And Tinubu hasn't even gone to any of these hot spots in Nigeria. He hasn't gone to Plateau, River State, the same crisis that, the democratically elected governor was removed. He didn't even go there. So he speaks from his throne, in Aso Rock. That's not what an effective president needs to do. You get in the plane and you fly to the spots and you talk with them. Sometimes your presence matters when people are living in a despondent situation. And Nigerians are living in a despondent situation. Forget the people, the very few that have it going on 95% of Nigerians are just people struggling with pain. I mean, and this pain is inflicted by their own. It's not a ghost that is doing this in Nigeria. These are Nigerians doing it to Nigerians. So, what is the solution? I don't know what the solution is, but it's a very shameful thing because the most popular black nation in the world, that has the most universities, has the most educated of any black population in any given country, hasn't figured it out. So what is it that Nigerians go to school for? If after graduating they go home and they can run a country, they say Nigerians are the smartest people in the world. Obviously, smart means something different because you look at the physical condition of Nigeria, it is a depressing country. You don't have water, you don't have sewer, you can't even protect your own people from your own people. Now, what if another country were to invade Nigeria? I don't think the Nigerian military has the resources to even defend Nigeria, because all they have done in these past years is to attack Nigerians and give Nigerians a sense of insecurity. So I don't know what the magic wand is going to be. I don't know who can even come and do something to stabilize Nigerians. But the Nigerians have to have the soul-searching effort and begin to say, hey, what are we doing? We're already under a military rule. If this was happening during a military rule, we can understand. But these are the people in Abada. They are not uniformed, the leaders that we used to have, Babangida, Abubakar, and all this. These are civilians. These are your village men and women. These are people you grew up with, you went to school with. So how is it that when they migrate to the position of politicians or public servants, they now take this high, I'm here, that kind of attitude, instead of looking down and say, hey, what do we have to do different? So I don't know, but it's shocking and it's very shameful. And then Britain is going to be laughing. You look at these people, we gave them independence or they got independence for themselves. They are still very dependent. Just think for that. You are an independent nation, but you are still very dependent on other people in order for you to live.
Now, looking at the report of these asylum applications, there are 22,619 asylum applications from Nigeria between 2010 and 2024. And Nigeria's filing sits just ahead of Sri Lanka's 22,059, and then above Vietnam, China, and Turkey. Now, there are those at the bottom of the list. We have Brazil, Kuwait, Yemen, Colombia, and Jordan. They were at the lower end of the list, each contributing fewer than 6,500 claims. When we look at some of the reasons they've given insurgency, banditry, them not feeling safe in Nigeria. We're seeing more young people also pushing for economic factors as part of the reasons why they're leaving the country. What will be the implication of this for us as a country in the next few years, say 5 years? What will what will this tell? I mean, you've said the impression it's given about Nigeria to the British, to Britain. But what will this mean for us as a country? We keep having more and more people. Insecurity is still on the rise. So that's still a valid excuse, or it's still a challenge that we have to deal with. So what story or what picture are we looking at in the next, say, 5 to 10 years in Nigeria?
Well, good question and good comment. The thing is, if you don't get your house in order, what happens? Just like even in your own household, if your kids are constantly going to your neighbor and seeking to watch TV or do whatever they think is in your neighbor's house, then you as a parent need to pull back and say, what is it? What is it that makes them go over there? It's either you go and negotiate with your neighbor to give you a favorable access, or you go back home and say, okay, whatever is making my kid go over there, I am going to try to have a backup. So the implication for Nigeria is the Nigerian leadership has become very insensitive to address the basic need of Nigerians. When you look at most Nigerians, they really don't even want to be all these millionaires and billionaires. They just want to have a peaceful life. They want to be paid. They want to be paid whatever it is you pay them. They want to go home and be able to manage their resources. Nobody makes enough money, trading hours for Naira. But the thing is, even now, even when people are employed, they are not being paid. Even when people are sick, what are the infrastructure for healthcare? Most of you that live there, you have to have a generator in order to have power. You don't have water, you have water supply, you don't have water system. The roads are bad. You may have people that live in beautiful compounds, but what if when you get on the street? So these are the things that triggers the human nature to say, hey, where else can I get but where else can I go? So there's a difference when people leave their country or that country of birth for somewhere else. That's a choice move. And then there are people that move because, somebody's after them. That's what they call asylees, and they're seeking protection from the people that are, running after them. So the implication for Nigeria is the Nigerian leadership, especially the biggest man on, what I call the pig at the head of the trough, has to be the one that stands up for Nigeria. He has to speak to these things. Okay, where is the Nigerian foreign minister? What is her name? Bianca? I think she's not even the foreign minister, she's the minister of state. But what is she going to say? These are people that have the authority for Nigeria, but what are they saying for Nigeria? And they even stand in front of the world and make statements that give an indication that they process what they're saying before they say. They don't. They all look like people going to pageantry. You see a lot of Nigerian leaders, they dress like they're going to a party. They don't give you a sense of duty. They don't give you a sense, okay, I'm going to sit in that office and I'm going to do something. They're always flashy dressed. So the point again is it has to go back to the Nigerians, because the very few people that are doing this thing, there are only 37 people that are important in Nigeria, the president and the 36 governors. So in most states, the governor is all that matters. I mean, you may have some people in Abuja, that they try to put a little resistance to the president. But in most 37, in that other 36 states, nothing is going on. And you have 200 million people. Remember, the population has to be relevant to the people. It's not just having 200 million people. The point is, what is the quality of the 200 million people? And then so far, Nigeria hasn't shown that it has got its house together. Again, if you look at the 10 top countries in the world, Nigeria falls in that category. And Nigeria is the poorest of any country that has a population of more than 150 million. No other country that is as dysfunctional as Nigeria.
Quite humbling statistics. And like in the course of our conversation this morning so far, one thing we can agree on is that these are the symptoms of a highly dysfunctional society. Having established that fact that things aren't really right or where they should be in Nigeria, is there any way this trend of seeking asylum can be curbed? What if the United Kingdom stops taking Nigerian asylum seekers? Will it keep Nigerians in Nigeria, for example? Because it's going to take a while to solve all the myriad of problems we've listed on the show this morning.
Well, look, Britain, what is the population? For every British person, whether you are actual British or British by adoption, for everyone there's 4 to 5 Nigerians. So if 2 heads are better than 1, so how come a country of 55 million people has a pool or have a pool, a string on 200 million people? These are the things you have to do. I gave an earlier example. Look at your family situation. The value of every country, the success of every country starts from the family. If the family structure is weak, if the informal education are not being emphasized in the family structure, what you get on the extended side of it, your village, your state and your nation is going to be lousy. So the Nigerians have to go back and begin to have conversation with their kids. When you come back from work, or just sit down and ask a question, begin to share those experiences. Hey, this is what we need to do, so that when they migrate to the position of authority, as your political people, they have a sense of accountability and responsibility. Yeah, but right now, there's no responsibility, accountability in the culture of Nigerians, not even from the family level to the national level. So there's something that has weakened, something has lost. When I left Nigeria in the 80s, Nigeria was what I would describe as an airplane in the tarmac about to take off. All of a sudden, all engines went out, the flat tires went out, and it has stayed in that tarmac. It hasn't taken off. And that's how many years ago? Almost 40 years ago. The Naira has weakened. The infrastructure doesn't exist. All you have is Nigerian presidents, every little thing they run abroad. They have, so the Nigerian doctors are not even given the opportunity to practice medicine at the highest level. Then the people that are lower than that, what are they going to get? So these are the things we have to be having conversation. No country is going to be relevant until the families that make those countries are relevant. Because again, it's their migration, is the nucleus. So where is the nucleus of the Nigerian family? It's not, the travel is an excuse. Because the Yorubas don't get it right, the Igbos don't have it right, the Fulani Hausa people don't even have it right. And it's more shameful on the northern part of Nigeria because they have had the benefit of producing both the military guys as well as the civilian. But look at how dysfunctional the entire northern states are. So what is their pride in? You go to Niger State, which is one state that still has former president. I don't call Babangida president, he's the head of state, but Abubakar is the head of state. But look at them, they have the two former heads of state that live in that state. So what is in Niger State? You have to look at it. Obasanjo is in Abeokuta. What has moved to Abeokuta because of Obasanjo? What has moved to Kastima because of Buhari? Because, when you leave office, and you have this thing I said, there is no aftermarket value for any Nigerian politician. That's why a whole lot of them, after they leave office, they still get entangled with stuff. They want to be senators, they want to do anything. If they were relevant, they should be the ones acting as a magnet to bring something to wherever they live. So you ask the question, Jonathan in Bayelsa State, what has ever happened there because of Jonathan? What is his name? Babangida, Abubakar, Buhari, any of these guys. Because in America, when our presidents leave office, they pour things into their community. Because people now want to say, okay, here is somebody who is over here, I got to go do something because they're there. What are Nigerians, former heads of state of citizens, doing? Nothing. Obasanjo goes around acting like a joke. Babangida cannot even physically move. What is his name? Is that Buhari or something, the last guy? So Nigerians have to make this assessment. Nobody's going to come do it for you. You have to look at your own person. These are people you went to school. These are your tribesmen and women. What are they doing for you? Nigerians should stop celebrating, my man in office, our man is the president, our man is the governor, and at the end of the day, like we say in Dallas or Texas, what has that got to do with the price of bread? What has the fact that your tribesman has been the head of state as long as they have been, what has that done for the average Nigerian? The northern people where all these crises are going on, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Or honestly, they have to be, because they have the biggest landmass in Nigeria. If they had their eyes together, they could be the bread basket of Nigeria. Their agriculture, they're not doing anything. They are all fighting for the oil on the south. They don't even let their people go to school because somehow the few of them have managed to make money. You want everybody to come to the compound and do this Allah, 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 give me, give me. You don't do stuff like that. So change the mindsets, change the orientation, prompt the Nigerians to think critically and be critical of their leaders. Sometimes when you're critical of Nigerians, they think you're criticizing. They are two different things. You have to be critical, and for you to be successful, start with your family. Ask your dad, what are you doing? Mom, what are you doing? But now people don't do it because everybody is like everybody on their own. The law is weak, the infrastructure is weak, and nobody really respects anybody. The only people they respect is if you have money. If you can throw money in front of Nigerians, they dance for you, and nobody's asking the question, how did you make them? It used to be when I grew up, if I come home with a shirt my dad didn't buy me, he said, hey, where did you get that from? But now nobody asks that question because the family structure has been weakened by what the leaders have done to Nigeria.
Very, very, very insightful analysis that you've brought in there. Looking at why you have so many challenges here. You talked about the law being weak. You talked about our institutions not being able to cater to the needs of Nigerians, hence why they want to leave. But I was just looking at the data as well concerning this asylum seekers. And did I say this especially for the benefit of our viewers? In 2004, Nigerians who applied for asylum in the UK was just 2,841. 2,841. today it stands at 22,059. Hopefully, it would stop there, wouldn't continue counting. We've seen the disparity in these two numbers, 2,000 and then another one, going as far as almost 23,000. How far do you think Nigeria has indeed plummeted in the aspect of providing the basics for its citizens? And how would you juxtapose this to what we find in the United States of America and also in the UK?
Very good question, and I can give you so many examples because I'm a number guy. If I were to plug that number of 20-something, 2,000 something, 20 years ago, and then almost 23,000, 2025. So if I use a financial modeling and I do present value, future value, you plug that in the computer and you push the number I, which is the rate of change. That computer is going to be blinking. You fly to London and come back. You're going to tell you, and when you come back, you have E, and with too many zeros in front of it, and there's what this is extended error. So, but then you go back to 1999. If you had 1 million naira in 1999, you had an equivalent of almost $12,000. Yeah. So in 2025, if you have 1 million naira, what do you have? $650. So if, again, let's go back to, democracy and what's supposed to do. Because democracy does not work if the institutions that enable it are very weak. Nigeria doesn't have strong democratic institutions. And that is why you see everything sort of like being eroded. The naira has been weakened, and then if the purchasing power of the naira is weakened, then the people, what are they going to fall back to? So those are the things, those are the factors that trigger this desire to either seek an asylum or to, migrate by choice. So Nigerians are living by choice. Think about this for a minute. Slavery happened when people, they say, the white people came in and they dragged people into a boat and say, if you were to do an experiment today, we really find out how Nigerians love their country. Put a large boat in Apapa and say, hey, if you can get here, I'll take you anywhere in the world. There'll be a stampede. That's the biggest test he's going to have to find with Nigerians because they are tired in their own country. The things that are supposed to give them a sense of belonging and a sense of community and the pride of nation doesn't exist. It doesn't. Anytime you go to the airport and you see Nigerians flying out, it's like they're taking, it's like during the Biafran War, what is that? I forgot the phrase, but everybody grab everything they can and they're running with it. It shouldn't be. 26 years into civilian rule. By now, the naira should have edged from where it was in 1999, 98, 99, to the dollar. It should have at least gone the other way. It should have been like 20. And then if that is the case, Nigerians will not be moving. Because a lot of the reasons why they move is the economic challenges. And then, of course, some people are going to lie about certain things. I remember one time in Dallas, I've done some immigration counseling. I just didn't want to continue that because, I came to America by choice. But at that early stages, I started to do it to see how I can enable people to understand my system. But the thing is, when you look at the economy, if people are getting paid and happy where they are, they don't want to move. If Naira were to be strong and the institutions were to be growing and cater to them, most Nigerians will not leave. They will stay at home, they go on vacation, and they will come back home. If you look at it, up until 1995, a lot of Nigerians that went to school came back home. From 1970, when the war ended, to 1985, Nigeria attracted the most corporate relocation of any country in West Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. So many companies came in. But from 1995, when Babangida foolishly and unintelligently decided to devalue the naira, what have you seen? You have now had a quicksand economy. You have now an eroding economy, and nobody has been able to say, "Hey, let us plug this leaky bucket, so that we can at least have something contained in the bucket." But since that 1985 to date, Nigeria has been leaking. It's just, Obasanjo one know about President Obama, when I had dinner with him in 2014 or so, thereabout, I think it was 2014, he said to me, Nigeria or Africa is a basket case. You know what a basket is? You pour water into it, it's going to keep leaking all over, and nobody has made the effort. What can we do to stop the leak? And it's incumbent on Nigerians and the leadership to say, hey, we are the most populous black nation in the world. Why can't we just become a destination for other people? When I met Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta King, when Obasanjo was in Atlanta as president-elect March of 1999, you know what he said? She said to me, she said, Edward, if Nigeria were to be an example of the black race is doomed. Think about that for a minute. If Nigeria were to be an example, so most other countries, most other black nations don't look up to Nigeria or Nigerians as an example. Of course, we have individual Nigerians that are successful, but Nigeria don't have institutions. Nigerians is a personality, context, political environment. It's all about the person. It's not about what they stand for or the institution that they're going to leave behind once they get into office. You cannot survive or succeed as a nation if you have weak institutions. And Nigerians don't know how to build institutions. They talk about the individuals. And the individuals don't make countries successful.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sejikopa, for sharing your thoughts with us on this very, very critical conversation.
Very sobering conversation.
Yeah, very. It brings to mind a whole lot if you start to think about it. Looking at the numbers again, I mean, just to recorrect myself, 22,619 compared to what we have, 2,841.
And also a trajectory from the past to present day.
Very
But
sad.
I mean, once there's life, there's always hope. So we keep the hope alive.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You know, hope is not a strategy.
No,
if you
it's
have a
not.
hope and you don't have a strategy behind it, it's like expecting the sun to rise from the west, and it ain't gonna happen. You know, and again, I thank you guys. You guys are the reason I stay awake. It's 2 a.m. my time. I'm
Thank
gonna
you very
wrap up on
much.
my
Thank you so considerate of us.
So,
Thank you
hey,
for
you guys
very
do a great job, and just keep the fire on these lousy politicians.
Thank
Speak.
you. Thank you
Speak
very
Have a good
much.
night rest. Yeah.
Enjoy
Thank
the
you
rest
so
of your
much.
night.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, all right. Let's move on now to our next story. The Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Egbetokun, has announced a reorganization of the police mobile force with a series of measures put in place, including the withdrawal of personnel from unauthorized deployments and the introduction of regular quarterly training. Take note, he said quarterly training. Egbetokun gave the directive during a meeting with squadron commanders of the police mobile force in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, saying that the reforms are aimed at strengthening internal security and enhancing the operational readiness of the force. He expressed concerns over the diversion of personnel to non-core roles such as escort and guard duties for private individuals and mandated that all police mobile force squadrons remain combat ready and are on standby for rapid tactical support.
Egbetokun warned against acts of indiscipline among police force, the mobile police personnel, emphasizing that commanders will be held accountable for the conduct of their officers.
Effective immediately. All PMF squadrons are directed to maintain at least one fully equipped combat-ready unit on standby at all times. These units must be prepared to support their respective state commands in any situation requiring urgent tactical intervention. Additionally, each squadron will be required to send one unit for training every quarter. As you are aware, directives have already been issued concerning the withdrawal of PMF personnel from authorized deployments. It is the duty of all commanders to enforce this directive without delay. A firm but gradual withdrawal from non-core assignments is underway. Currently, squadron sizes will be reviewed and reduced to ensure operational effectiveness and agility. From this moment, PMF commanders will be held vicariously responsible for the conduct of their personnel.
You're watching Breakfast Central News Central Television. Let's bring you a recap of our top stories in this first hour. Migration spikes as 22,000 Nigerians seek asylum in the UK. Security experts condemn Plateau Benue attacks, offer solutions. And the Inspector General of Police directs squadron leaders to maintain combat-ready units. And coming up next this morning at Breakfast Central, Presidency budgets 10 billion naira for solar panels in Aso Villa. Malians behind incessant attacks in Benue, says the governor, and traders lament over Kano power outage, seeks intervention. Stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back. Let's go into the escalated insecurity situation in the country following recent attacks in Benue State, a crisis that continues to impact the lives of countless individuals and communities. We shall unpack the causes, consequences, and possible solutions to this urgent issue. Well, joining us for this discussion is Mr. Solomon Lopev, Technical Advisor in Media, Publicity and Strategic Communications to the Executive Governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Aliyah. And also we would look at this conversation in detail. Thank you so much for being here, and good morning.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. First of all, we want to express our condolences with the people of Benue State. Very, very sad incidences we see coming from there. Can you please share with us how the governor is taking this? And we did see some of his comments from yesterday, where he had pointed fingers to a set of Malians whom he says are committing these heinous crimes. Can you share with us what else he said and what the plans are, most importantly?
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for the condolences. On behalf of my people here in Benue State, my governor and the government, we'd like to thank you very sincerely. It's a very sad day, it's a very sad period for all of us in Benue. And as the governor spoke and has been talking about this, it has affected literally everything around our state. The killings affect mostly the rural dwellers who are the farmers. They are the ones that add a lot of value to the economy of the state. You're talking about food insecurity around the globe, and Benue State being the food basket of the nation is being attacked left, right, and center. Farmers can go to the farm. Even those who have been able to farm and put stuff together are being chased out of where they are. They become IDPs in their own homes, and all of that. It's quite a sad situation. We've had quite a number of killings around the state, but the first thing we know is this is not a situation affecting only Benue State. We know that it is an orchestrated plan to displace the whole of Nigeria. This thing is affecting and is coming into the country from every side, from every end. No state has been left out, just maybe quite a few that have not gone under the knife of these attackers, who coming from all quarters because of our porous borders and all of that. They come in and begin to attack helpless and defenseless people, mostly at night. And the attacks are guerrilla-like. They're coming from across the borders, from across the places, wherever they're coming from, attack the villagers, and then retreat and go back to wherever they're hiding. And that has been affecting the state very much in terms of development, in terms of economic development and all of that. And the people are now in IDP camps. As I speak with you, we have about 12 camps across the state accommodating these people that have been internally displaced. And so it's a lot of weight on the state. It's devastating for all of us. The governor particularly is not sleeping at all to ensure that this thing is brought to a halt.
All right. It really is a sad situation happening there in Benue State, and like you said, it's not just in Benue State. There are different parts of the country that are facing insecurity. Yesterday we had a guest who's a security expert, and part of his argument for the fight against insecurity is that the governors need to step up and do more to protect their citizens. And I'll ask your response to this. He did say that whilst the governor may not have command of security agencies of the military there, he does have some measure of control, so that he can be able to employ this for his benefit. And it's not just, he wasn't speaking in particular to Benue State government. In fact, we're talking about insecurity in general in the Middle Belt. So what would your response be to some of the people who say that the governors need to step up? The president did say governors need to step up to defend their citizens.
Well, yeah, that's been the discourse on the table. Mostly everybody rests and puts the bulk of protecting the people of their states. Of course, every governor is the chief security officer of their own state. And they have the right, they have the mandate, they have, even by election, the trust of the people to protect them. Now, most of the discussions of these people are based on the fact that security votes have been given to the governors. And so they're supposed to step up their game, they're supposed to spend this money. Now, let's talk about Benue State, for instance. When you don't have control, and a man who says, I don't know whoever that was that came on your program that spoke to the fact that despite the fact that you don't have control over the security apparatus, that you need to do much more. I don't know what else can be done. For instance, let me give you the Benue State Star. Now, if you calculate what comes in as security votes for the state, it's about 1.2 billion thereabout for the security votes. Now, let me tell you what my governor did. Out of this money, the man bought 100 Hilux trucks for security agencies in the state. You know how much a Hilux truck goes for right now, as we're talking in the market? The man bought about 600 motorbikes, so that in case the trucks can go beyond certain areas, the bikes are used to go into the hinterlands. Put all of that cost together. Now you're also talking about the welfare of those people who are going about fighting these insecurities on every front. It's still from this money you are taking care of IDPs and all of those who are internally displaced. How far can you go with that? Now we're talking about finances. In an economy where almost literally everything financial, the dollar has gone up and has devalued our money to a level that it practically looks like nothing. Now, the people who we're using here as our agents, the security agents. Now, when you want to put these people out there, for instance, you give an instruction that they should move to Zakibiam, for instance, and there's an instruction that comes from up that, okay, you are not going to Zakibiam, you are going to so place. We have heard people even on the social media, we have heard soldiers, we have heard lots of other people complaining, even on the social media. I began to see some videos on social media lately when officers have been complaining that their leaders are playing politics with people's lives. They have been instructed and told, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. Okay, how can you have control over what happens if you have these people within your control? You tell them, go and kill everybody involved, and then they receive another instruction that says, just contain them. Don't kill anyone.
Are you confirming to us that this is actually the position of what's happening in
Let me land on this matter. Okay. Let me land on this matter first. Now, when you send someone who you don't have direct control over, for instance, and they disobey you, how do you punish them? You don't have control over what they say. I mean, they are not answerable to you directly. So you want to punish them for not containing or dealing with the certain people that are disturbing your people within the territory. How far can you go to punish them? They say, don't hire who you cannot fire. If you cannot punish someone who has done wrong, what level of control do you have over them? So you can be frustrated in spite of all the monies you have, all the efforts you're making. And I'm not saying that these people are negligent of what is happening. What I am trying to say is you need to have control of your own security apparatus. The Benue State governor has gone ahead to set up what you call the Benue Civil Protection Guards. There are about 5,000 of them. Now, in 23 local governments where you are having attacks all over the place, that's like a drop in the ocean. And secondly, these people are not allowed to carry certain level of weapons. How do you send somebody with a den gun to go and meet someone who has an AK-47 or 49? He may not be able to do much. Now, these are the things we're talking about. So if a man has security votes, let him also have control over who he sends out there. That's what we're advocating for. Personally, and of course, I think my governor as well advocates for what you call community policing. Allow the people to have control. So there's a certain level to which we can go with this. That's the point I'm trying to make. I must appreciate the people who are willing to cooperate in these security agencies. They have been doing their best as far as we're concerned from here. But there is so much a governor can do. But when you have, for instance, what is happening now is a deliberate, orchestrated, planned and deliberate attempt by some foreigners to take over the land of Nigeria. Whatever the reason is, I am a part of the plan. I don't know what is happening. But the plan is to displace the whole of this country. Beginning from the north, nobody is being spared. You have heard of killings all over the place. These people are deliberate. It's not what you leave to the state government alone. And that's the reason why we've been calling on the federal government to also up their game. The NSA kindly was in our state yesterday. He came in on the instruction of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He came into the country and he came into the state. He looked at the situation on ground and he also agreed that the federal government needs to add more value to what is happening in the state. So by the time you put the bulk of the blame game on the table of the man who is the chief security officer of the state but does not have control over the security apparatus, it may not be 100% correct. There's how far a man can go in protecting his people with certain limited resources, especially human resources.
Now, Mr. Torpev, just looking and analyzing, just taking everything you've said, it's obvious there are challenges in dealing with insecurity in Benue. The central government needs to streamline its policies or its plans, the security plans, with that of the state. Having said that, what are some of the implications? Benue is known as the food basket of the nation. What are some of the effects and implications of this unrest and killings and attacks we've witnessed in the last few months in Benue?
I'm so sorry, but I didn't hear the question. What's the question again, if you don't mind?
The effect of this insecurity on farming, on the people of Benue, the communities.
Now, thank you very much for that question, because this is what we've been putting out there. You know, one of the things we're fighting in Nigeria, and not just Nigeria, globally, is a question of food security. Benue State is the highest producers of yam in the whole country. We're the highest producers of cassava. We're the highest producers of soya beans. So this goes to tell you that the impact is devastating. Right now, as I speak to you, there's a place called Gwe West in Benue State. That is where the main farming takes place. And I can tell you that for the past 14 to 15 years, about 8 council wards in that local government have been displaced. This is about 15 years back. And 8 of those council wards have been displaced. It's in recent times that some of them began to return to their places as a result of the efforts made by my government. Now, you go to Ukum local government where you have the highest yams. Now, this is where you have been having those recent attacks where you heard about 70-something people, 72 people lost their lives on the attacks on Ukumi, Bagi, Toru, and Ogodo axis. Now, these things are happening to farmers. They call farmers who most often than not use manual labor to be able to produce and put on the table. And yet they have been doing so much. His Excellency came on board recently and is trying to introduce mechanized farming. And one of the most difficult things we're facing is to get these implements to these places because these people are not where they should be, in their farmlands. So the effect is devastating. It's affecting our economy, it's affecting, and I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. And that's why I begin to wonder whether there is a calculative attempt, either from the international community or wherever these plans are coming from, to cause hunger in Nigeria and make them more reliant on other communities, international communities, or maybe borrow more and then become slaves. I don't know what that is. Secondly, one of the things affecting this, and I was trying to talk about this earlier on, is because of the mineral resources in our state. If you come to Benue State, I don't know if you've known about this, but out of the 43 mineral resources, solid mineral resources in Nigeria, Benue has about 34 plus. And the Konde axis of Benue, the mountainous area of Benue State, has many of these mineral resources. You see people coming from across the borders. These people don't even have cows sometimes, or they carry on their bodies weapons. And they come in bikes. Sometimes they come like 300 bikes with 2 people on each bike. That's about 600 people. And you're wondering, what force can go against these people? And when they displace these people, when they displace our people, they take over these territories and begin to illegally mine these substances. That has happened across some of the African countries, and now it's coming into Nigeria. And we keep saying this time and again, it's just a matter of time before we begin to cry for food. Plateau State, for instance, most of the areas where people, and it's usually around the farmland area.
Are you there?
Areas.
Okay.
These people have areas. And this is affecting a lot of the food, it's affecting food security. It's just a matter of time before we begin to starve in this country and even begin to depend on other people, and as a whole nation even become dependent for our feeding in this country. So it's affecting a lot of things beyond the displacement, where people have become helpless, where people don't have where to go to, where they have become dependent on the government for feeding. The rest of the country is going to suffer this, especially coming from the food basket of the nation.
And that's one thing that that's gotten a lot of Nigerians fearful, because it's scary to take note that the food basket breaks down. Every other thing would definitely be affected. But there seem to have been divergent views. The divergent views that came from your principal, where he talked about communities being under siege. You mentioned about 7, if I did hear you correctly. And the governor said that these bandits or insurgents come and try as much as possible to claim the lands. But then again, the NSA came out yesterday during the visit to Benue State, and he said something quite different. So this led to divergent views. But let's quickly watch the video and let's see what he said. And then I'd like a reaction to it. And possible, you could also share with us what Benue State needs now in the interim. Let's watch.
Many of the countries have lost the fight against these evil people. Sudan today do not have government. Niger today is a military government. Mali is a military government. Burkina Faso is a military government. They face the same problem we are talking about. I worked in Afghanistan in the past. Today, those people who we went, the whole world went to confront, to fight, are the ones who are in charge of Afghanistan. Just to tell you, today in our country, I believe that we are not doing badly, given the massive nature of the problem and the challenge. There is no part of Nigeria today is controlled by them. There is no part of Nigeria is controlled and politically in charge by them. We have done fairly well. We are not yet over. Issue of security or insecurity is not an issue that you can instantly say you will address. We appeal to Nigerians to give us understanding. Appreciate the fact that there are people who are working and that it is a matter of time. If you see the way government is responding today, is different from what was happening in the past. This government is responsible. This government listens. This government will come. This government will identify, and this government will take issues and challenges and will continue to be better. This country have improved greatly from the time this government came. It's a process. It's a journey. It took 15 years or more to get to this mess we found ourselves. It's probably will not be able to say in 1 year or 2 years that you will completely stop it. We have done very well. Issue of security is relative. Compare it with what was happening in the past and see where you are today. That's why you have seen us in Benue State. We were in Plateau. Wherever it is coming up, you will see us and we will respond appropriately. I want to assure you that this government is working, and we want to tell you that it's a matter that we will confront and will address.
All right, I'm sure you've seen that video. Like I rightly asked, there seem to have been divergent views. While the governor said that these insurgents are starting to claim territories and lands, I mean, the NSA there saying that there's no such thing. Can you share with us what your thoughts are and what Benue needs in the interim? This would be our final question.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. But I think most times it's good to read meanings within the context and not out of the context. Now, when the NSA was talking about having control and taking territorial control of areas, there was a time, I think if you remember when Boko Haram started in Nigeria, you had issues where it took over a whole local government and began to run that local government as an independent country of. So he was talking about territorial takeovers, where you have people controlling a whole region, hoisting their flags, collecting taxes in those areas, and running the places as though it was their own government, outside of the Nigerian government. And I think that's what he was referring to when he was talking about control and taking absolute control of those regions. So if you read that, anybody who misinterprets that is taking that out of context. And that's the reason.
Great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that question was very key in order to find out, because from yesterday, members of the press had taken that information that there were divergent views. And we've seen reports, even from journalists who have gone there to cover. Our man is on ground currently as we speak, also ensuring that he gathers more information. And part of the information we hear or feed us is that some territories have been earmarked by these insurgents to belong to them. So as soon as they come in, he also said that in one of his response to one of your questions.
But the NSA is saying something.
Yes, but the NSA is saying there's no such. But I think I was trying to get his response. He's saying there's a context. The NSA is possibly saying that they may have taken over a little territory, but they've not hoisted their flags and they're not collecting in terms of taxation.
They're not running a government.
And running a government, exactly. So I think
it's always nice to put things in context.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Olive was looking forward to also talk about.
Yes, I was looking forward to. My last question to him would have been looking at the quality of life that internally displaced persons are living. We're getting into the rainy season. What preparations are we making to ensure that they're adequately catered to? Catered for? What kind of support do they need from the rest of the country? How can people show up for them? And also to find out, why the government turned down the convoy of His Excellency Peter Obi. It would have been great to find out, because he was going to show support for the internally displaced persons, whilst also launching, I think it was a nursing school he was going to visit as well. So it would have been really great to have that. But we'll move on from that conversation to other conversations this morning as we shine a major spotlight on a development in Nigeria's energy sector, one that has had Nigerians stunned, with media reports revealing that the presidency has allocated 10 billion naira for solar power projects to tackle the rising energy bills, not in the rest of the country, but in the presidential villa. A move that has had many Nigerians wondering and asking questions, questions we don't have answers to, but hopefully our experts will be able to help us with. Joining us for this discussion is Dr. Sam Amadi, the former chairman and CEO of Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Good morning. Welcome, Mr. Amadi, to the show. Do Nigerians have a right to complain? The number of the complaints we've seen is that the rest of the country is thrown into darkness whilst the presidency is sorting itself out and ensuring that Aso Villa is, powered by solar energy, whereas the rest of the country is struggling with band A, band B, band C, and the like. So the Nigerian citizens probably have a right to think in that direction.
Well, thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me. I think it's clear that Nigerians have a right to complain about many things. That's why they are citizens. And if they're citizens in an era and a time where many things are wrong, then there's a right to complain. But let's put it in perspective, really. there are three issues in my mind about this. First is the fact that productivity, one expects that the President Villa would like to have the tools to work. Let's forget whether they actually work, but the design is that they should work. And I think that electricity supply, not just to the villa, but to public institutions, public sector institutions, the hospitals, the universities, should be prioritized. So in that sense, I mean, the estate where I live, Abuja, almost everybody is on solar, apart from myself. Well, I thought that maybe the capital outlay, or maybe I should keep faith with the grid. But so there's that migration. And what's causing it is essentially the unreliability, growing unreliability of the grid. So at that level, we can say, oh, wow, these guys have to have a more stable power supply so that they will be productive. And we need them to lead. So that's hypothetical. We are assuming they are working, they want to work hard. The second level of this analysis is to say, what does this mean for messaging and for the commitment of government to what I've been saying? So if the government
we seem to be having connectivity issues with Mr. Amadi. Hopefully we'll get back to him soon. And he said, you know, Nigerians as citizens, we have every right to question.
So I think
that's why
the
it's
question
called
that you have
taxpayers'
asked
money.
Was, is it a valid concern that Nigerians have? More, not that they, of course they have a right to concern, to ask. I think it would have been more like, is it a valid concern? Because some people will say, why aren't we applauding the fact that they're moving more towards renewable energy, joining the rest of the world in keeping up with global best practices?
They should move all of us together into renewable energy.
I agree. Leadership
I remember that there's also a conversation around the fact that the budget is way too high. You know, there's also a conversation that the budget is that 10 billion is enough to you know, put. You see, the conversation we had with AGK, which happens to be our very first on migration, it makes sense. Yes. All right. Okay. All right,
Mr. Amadi, please go ahead with we're asking, you were speaking as to whether or not the complaints or the perspective of citizens is a valid perspective and a good way to look at it.
You need to unmute your device, sir.
Yes,
okay,
we can
great.
hear you.
We can hear you.
Go ahead, we can hear you now.
I was saying, the second point I said that, yes, we can make a case that they need to boost productivity, but the second point and the point is that it tells the citizens not to trust that things will improve. So if the president at this point, where the minister is saying, oh, we're going to have 7,000 megawatts reliably delivered to Nigerian citizens, is making 10 billion arrangements to provide them solar off-grid solution, then that tells citizens that, look, things are not going to get better, and the government has basically no magic to turn things around. So it's a message of doom, a message that contradicts the propaganda around we are getting a set. The minister, in my view, very competent so far, has been selling good hope, false hope, while he prepares to run for governorship election. And now the presidency is coming out of this failure, and then exposing citizens. So at the level of leadership, communication, it's dangerous, it's kind of depressing, because it tells a story that you have to, don't trust us because we can't get it right. That's really what it's talking about. At the third level, there's been some argument around the villa, the presidency, White House has solar. And the truth about solar is that most countries that are doing that is that at two levels. One is as a standby, even in hospitals in the US where there's stable electricity, they want to be sure that in the case of hurricane, in the case of that there's a standby alternative to deal with that. So I don't think it's the same thing. And then again, you move to solar as a part of a green energy transition. That's not what we're saying here. It's a case of isolating the villa from the great frequency of grid collapse. And that tells a story of failure, in my view.
All right. Just like Oliver asked if Nigerians have the right to know that, but you have worked with the power sector for a number of years. You've understudied the incidences, the challenges, most importantly, that has affected the sector. What would you say about the, let me use the word body language, that we see in this 10 billion naira budget for solar energy from the presidency, and yet Nigerians are still crying that the band A, B, C, D, whether we move it to Z, is not really meeting its target and goals, especially on Nigerians. Do you think the timing is right? And with your experience in the power sector, do you also agree with others who have said that the banding of our power sector should be discontinued?
Yeah, let me start with the banding. As a former NEC chairman, I don't often criticize NEC publicly. But when the banding was rolled out, I spoke to some of the commissioners. We met first in NTA and at the House, at the Senate hearing. And my view remained the same, that look, it was NEC trying to solve a fiscal problem, financial problem of the country, through a regulatory intervention. That banding was basically designed to help reduce the deficits that was about to collapse the sector. It's not regulatory. I'll give you two reasons. One, the band A, band B creates the impression that a particular segment of the consumer class are going to have real improvement in energy supply. So it could be excusable if, for example, there are new 3,000 megawatts coming in next month. And the regulator says, while every other person's power is constant, no decrease, we're going to use 2,000 of these megawatts to serve certain people at a premium. So what that means is that you are channeling new power, and therefore you are now asking that they pay more to get more. But what happened in this case? There was no new improvement, not new megawatts, not new disco recovery of capacity, not new transmission facility. Simply mathematics. We need to get more money. So let's get people who can pay, and they will classify them as band A. So band A is first a rip-off on those who are band A, because they're not going to get, and nobody got constantly 20 hours power supply. The second problem is that it meant that the incentive for the discos to take the little power, redistribute it in a way that favors those on band A and deprive acute deprivation for those who are not on band A, who are on band B and C. So at two levels, it's discriminatory. The only way to discriminate in a regulated market is through capacity to pay. So you keep the same price, and people buy more, they consume more. So it's like bread in the market. You can't have the same bread and say, if you're going to buy this bread, you pay this amount. No, that's the amount for a bread. So if you choose, you can buy 10, you can buy 2. In other countries, you can do what they call multi-layer tariff. That means at the base level, if you buy up to 100 megawatts, it is at X price. If you go beyond that lifeline or that benchmark and you want to consume more, so the more you consume after a certain threshold, unit prices change. So those are regulatory tools that do not favor one class or destroy another class, but keeps a balance that if people consume more, then they pay more units. So I think it was wrong, and I told him that was a wrong thing to do, because at the end of the day, both the band A and band B struggled. Now back to the question around the body language. I think that what the presidency has done in increasing 20 billion, it's not unusual to what they've been doing. You look at when we're complaining about rise in fuel prices and rise in inflation, they built a new refurbished the vice president's house with so much billion. They bought a yacht, they bought things. So this government is not particularly sensitive to what people think or the timing of what they do. So it's typical in my view, but wrong at the same time. I think there may be a case that the unreliability, the villa needs more stable power supply. But that case has been made in a more transparent, communicated, and get it done in a way that people know, look, we are constrained. We have to do this. We understand that people are suffering, but these are the measures we are going to put in to improve power for citizens across board and not allow everybody to make the capital cost of migrating to solar. We can't have a solar-based economy where the grid is not built and we have hundreds of mini-grids or micro-grids based on solar. It's not a sustainable energy policy for development.
Thank you very much. And I believe you can even industrialize on the back of solar for heavy industry and equipment. Now, Mr. Amadi, you mentioned something which caught my attention, and it sounded very positive, that 3,000 megawatts will be added to the grid in the next few months. What about the transition part and distribution? Is it just the megawatts? Would it lead to more electricity for Nigerians? And also, this apartheid system of banding, is it a stopgap measure, or is going to be a permanent fixture in electricity forever? Because, I mean, without revealing my age, I also want to ask you sincerely, I'm quite, with all this beard, I'm quite an elderly person, and I've never had constant electricity in my life. Is it possible for Nigeria in 2025 and beyond to be hopeful that one day children will stop screaming up NEPA and would have this constant 24 hours electricity?
I think let's start from the beginning. I think NEC will probably be forced to abandon the banding for obvious reasons. Right now, they are also looking for how to increase tariff for everybody. I hear there's a debate around tariff increase for all band of customers, because it didn't work. Even financially, it has not worked much. It has worked somehow, hasn't worked too much for the sector. And so it might be that at the point, the Bank DC will experience tariff increase. So this is my view, and I told them, I said, be honest, when I was NEC chairman, I did 2 tariff increases. But be honest and tell consumers and let them see the transparency of the increase. And that's why we made the regulation on tariff increase.
Well, I think we're really struggling with Mr. Madi's network there. It's a very interesting conversation. Hopefully, we can really get an answer to what Benga just asked. Hopefully, it would stop from when you were younger up until now.
I'm not sure.
Is it
Mr.
back?
Madi, can you check if your device is muted? Because director is telling us they can see you speak, but we can't hear from this side. Okay, we still can't hear Mr. Amadi. Now, Joe, are you hopeful?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry for this interruption. I'm actually in the village post sister. Okay, so part of what I was trying to say is that, you know, they will obviously abandon this plan because it's not going to work, or it's not working. The second issue around, you know, I'm going to see an end to this. I think, look, the key thing is that we should have quality improvement in the sector. And it starts with, first, clarity. This sector had problem up to 2000. When Obasanjo launched the power plan, Jonathan took it up. 2023, we privatized, which in my view was horrid. I made that argument, and everyone in the sector fought me. I said, it's a mistake. Because before I became the chairman, I wrote a book. I said, you don't privatize that way. Look at Egypt. Egypt has built capacity. At the time, in 5 years, they had 2,000 megawatts delivered by Siemens, and now they are thinking about commercializing and privatizing, gradual. But typical of Nigeria, the World Bank, all these so-called consultants gave us a wrong idea. You just crash shock therapy, just private sector. It hasn't worked. 2, we also need to improve our project management basis, and that requires that each government should see power not as political. Look at the guy appointed there. Maybe a competent guy, working the central bank, but basically thinking more about politics. So I think we should have this consensus that we're going to take power out of politics, electricity, and then allow it to improve in a holistic sense. So we build the foundations again, we transition to reliable incremental improvement, then we get to transformation. It requires clear thinking around institutions and how we organize it. It's not just a case of saying, oh, we're going to get some contractors build this. No, you have to sit back and think the whole framework and move forward. I think we can get it right. it is going to take us some time because it takes everybody some time. But it has to be a time you're moving consistently in the right direction. Not, will give us 4 years. Buhari came and almost truncated what we did. Within that 8 years of Buhari, by the time I left NEC, we hit at the point 4,000 megawatts daily supply. The discos, we are doing revenue of over some of them of the 80-90%, meaning that they were solvent. Today, most of them are below 20% or 30%. Today, the level of frequency of collapse has tripled. So what that means is that in that 8 years window, we didn't build strong foundations for continuous improvement. If you had done that consistently, today you see that maybe across the country, not band A or B, you see perhaps 16% reliable and scheduled power. Everybody knows that there will be power at this time. And then you see that generation is growing. Back to the other question, okay, we are going to do 8,000. That's what the minister says. I'm not even sure they will deliver that. You have to look at gas supply. You have to look at transmission network and the distribution network. So I think that there should be a time we get back and say, okay, connect the regulator, re-index this sector, create new benchmarks, give 6 months to this discourse to show capacity to deal with these technical industrial milestones. If they don't show it, next steps is divest them, bring new institutional investors, not in a political risky manner where it's nationalizing, no, industry-based review. Because essentially, part of the problem is that we got people into the sector who probably didn't have the financial access. They over-leveraged in financing, they borrowed so much, and so they can attract investment to drive expansion. Look at the logic of advertising should have been that we sell to people who pay with their money and then they can borrow to improve. They will sell to people who borrow to purchase, then they can't borrow again to implement. So that's what my first says. The private sector cannot just take everything. You have to sell it gradually. A co-educator could be sold first because the market is viable, they have commercial people to outsource cost to and improve the power. Then you move down to the dedicate competition between the government-owned and the public owned, and that's what it's all about. It's about competition. What drives improvement is not private ownership. That's a mistake in economics. That's not true. What drives improvement in the enterprises is 3 things. One is competition in competitive environment. If it's not there, you use regulation to simulate it. The second is that you have good corporate practice. And the third is that you don't have some project like so that people don't outsource their failure. So government to give us supply. Even if you're a government enterprise, you have to be commercial. And that's what the original plan was. First, liberalize, unbundle, commercialize, and corporatize. We didn't stay long on commercializing and corporatizing before we moved to privatization. So we privatized. By the time I was NEC, I was the first person who did a national audit of this enterprise. There was no audit. They don't even know their financial status. They didn't know their customer numbers. We did the first attempt to look at meter inquiry, how much was it. So this is a sector that needed to be properly governed first.
All right.
Before private. And like we typically do Nigeria government, we don't like
I mean, the conversations about the energy sector are not ones, they're not conversations that we can exhaust in one sitting. So we definitely would love to have this again. Thank you, Mr. Amadi, for joining us this morning on the show.
And I appreciate his tactical optimism when I asked that question about would we ever. Yes, we will have power, but when certain conditions are met.
Are being met.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for that interview.
Thank you.
When Benga asked that question of whether we'll have power, I wanted to respond by saying all power belongs to God. But still talking about power, some frozen food businesses in Kano State have continued to count their losses as the Kano Electricity Distribution Company has been unable to supply power for the past 1 month. New Central Television crew who went round Tarauni, Padawa and Sabongeri area of Kano State metropolis reports that some of the frozen food dealers have gone as far as closing their shops as a result of the loss because of the continued power outage in Kano and neighboring Jigawa and Katsina State. Now, while some of them still managed to open their shops, the thought of them losing millions of naira is still fresh in their minds. New Central's Emmanuel Emmanuel Bagudu tells us more in this report.
The power outage in Kano, Jigawa and Katsina states is now telling on residents and traders alike. The ever-busy center of commerce is now looking scanty, with some businesses now on recess. Traders here in Kano say that they are struggling to make ends meet as the state battles with power outage that have lasted for at least 10 days. The most affected, the frozen food traders, are unhappy as they have continued to count their losses, which they say have brought their businesses to its knees. A friend of mine lost over 1 million naira because he freezes the chickens and transports them to other states. In just 2 days of power outage, everything just got destroyed. Abba Hussein is the chairman of frozen fish traders at the Bayandogon Banki area of the state capital. Hussein says that the loss in their market is huge, with the lowest incurred by traders estimated to be between 3 to 400,000 naira. Others, according to Hussein, also lost as much as 2 million naira, forcing them to close down their businesses. For us here, honestly, the lowest loser is from 300,000 to 400,000 naira, up to 2 million naira and above. A huge loss. In fact, some of our colleagues have abandoned their businesses because even if you have generator, how much fuel will you buy that will be enough? We just have to depend on the electricity company. To kace an samu matsala wallahi an samu mana taya ni abubuwan suke ga kifin nan a ciki yanzu aka ma wari yake mu dai mu gani ba mu da matsala amma wari yake za mu rufe hanci. Here are the fish in here, all spoiled and smelling. I swear our senior colleagues lost as much as su kansu asara suke yi, ballantana mu kuma kanana wanda za mu je mu dauko a wajen su 30 million, 40 million, 50 million naira. We the smaller dealers cannot help the situation. As our senior colleagues are losing this much, they have stopped retailing to us. We honestly don't know our offense because we usually pay all our power bills. Ali says that traders now dispose their fish as they get rotten because of the lack of power. They are just economizing figures, but the loss is bigger than that. I saw with my eyes where our workers in the night are going to bury fish at Bazaar. The fish, some melting, the spoiled ones are being disposed, some we fry, if we can't fry, we throw away. While the Kano Electricity Distribution Company says that it is on top of the situation, the traders say they are losing their customers as the situation is grossly affecting their businesses. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Very detailed reports there by Emmanuel Bagudu. No doubt, if there's no power, it definitely would tell on businesses and the economy. And it makes me wonder because according to surveys, stand to be corrected though on the figures, but it says about 96% of Nigerian businesses are majorly SMEs, you know, small, medium enterprises, and they do need power. Without power, you know what it means for them. Let's tell you what's still to come here on Breakfast Central on a Wednesday morning, and you can continue to stay with us, but here it is on Still to Come. Still to come this morning, we have the newspapers. We would be calling in and letting you know what we have on the front pages, which way Nigeria is also here for today. And then later today, you find out what programs would be showing, and you can count on us. We'll let you in on every single thing. Stay with us.
Well, how can I read?
Welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aboroa. We begin the news with security matters. Residents displaced by insecurity in Katsina Ala local government are calling for decisive steps to be taken to mitigate incessant attacks which have plagued the local government and surrounding local governments as well. Speaking on the heels of recent attacks in neighboring Zaki Bian and local government, The residents are calling on the federal government to intervene to restore peace and security in the troubled areas.
Our family one family. Nah, moya musono mumenewa. Ahi hituni bushira. Katuni buna wasise la gashin. Una ngwani asia unutindi. Una kele va security. Iva nase. Ga higen mo emlu ki ya wan fachoka hakwaga. Muwe yo achi si fachoka samba kigeri. Hachu ule no je fulani gboro hakala. Gwamnati ko hakwa niga. Hachu Peru wa sera. Gwamnati zahega. Mom naga gwamnati ga. Kai wa se ci we shi ga gwamnati da duwo he. Na wa se say me young me as more security person ya. Semba ji ya me na se ji ina se security hin shika. Me na se security hin mandibata. Me na se security shin aba. Na ha masuru free. Ba security ke mo is there da na ya shi chin shi hide. Ye hide ama yo ba we nyo so want to.
Problem was so suruwa mi hita na ya ka fulani. Samba za yo mama saba fulani to kla ya len kla tega. Kisa ya kwa fulani da gbe sekere. Si fato da irin tonga. Sa ya kwa fulani ba no se bizin da sekere wo se gbin. Yanga kisa ya tu pasi. Fulani da wo se duma bi hanya.
Still on insecurity, prominent Christian leaders have raised concerns over the continued killings of Christians in northern Nigeria, saying Christians in the north need the empathy of their counterparts in the south to keep faith in God. Speaking at a concert to raise funds for victims of insurgency in northern Nigeria, organized by the Foundation of Truth Assembly in Lagos, the leaders, including Pastor Yomi Kasali, convener of the concert, Pastor Ayo Orisajafo, senior pastor of Word of Life Bible Church, among other ministers, say awareness needed to be created on the plight of victims of insurgency in the northern region. The concerts also had in attendance some widows from the northern region who narrated how they lost their husbands to attacks.
Charity is more relevant now than ever before, especially as we witness killings in north-central Nigeria, in Plateau, in Benue, a menace that has gone on almost annually for over 30 years. I urge all present today, whether you represent a ministry or not, to become financial partners with the Cross Charity.
So the church in the south just had an handshake with the church in the north, trying to see what we can do as an intervention to support the cause of humanity, not just Christianity. So it's beyond a Christian cause, it's a cause for humanity. We've got to wake up as a people. We don't have guns, we can't fight back with bullets. What we can do is to fight back through our own humanitarian interventions, which is cross charity.
If nothing is done to stop this thing, we will just be gathering widows. We'll be paying school fees. So is that what the church will do forever? So the whole church in the north will just be filled with widows and orphans. The truth is, I will say to you, very clear, very plain, simple, defend yourself.
Away from Nigeria, Burkina Faso's military government says it's foiled a major plot to overthrow the military leader Ibrahim Traore last week. Security Minister Mahamadou Sana alleged that the plotters were based in neighboring Côte d'Ivoire. Sana said the attempt was led by current and former soldiers working with terrorist leaders who planned to sow chaos and place the country under the supervision of an international organization. Sana also said the plotters attempted to use Burkinabe religious and traditional leaders to sway army officers into backing the plan. Leaders of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on Tuesday converged on Ghana for the launch of the landmark 50th anniversary celebrations of the regional body, formed in 1975, May 28. 2025 will mark exactly 50 years since the signing of the Treaty of Lagos that brought ECOWAS into being. The ECOWAS Commission selected Ghana to host the launch event of this Golden Jubilee celebrations in honor of Ghana's legacy as a cradle of Pan-Africanism and champion of regional cooperation. Several leaders, including Ghana's President John Mahama and a representative of Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, praised ECOWAS's member states for their commitment to the mission of cooperating and integration in West Africa, which has endured the past half-century. In East Africa, the World Food Programme has announced the suspension of aid for 650,000 malnourished women and children in Ethiopia due to the lack of funding. The UN agency warned on Tuesday that 3.6 million people in Ethiopia overall are at risk of losing access to food aid in the coming weeks unless new financial support can be urgently sourced. The agency said it had planned to reach 2 million mothers and children with life-saving nutrition assistance in 2025, but will fall short due to a predicted funding shortfall of $222 million between April and September. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Breakfast Central continues shortly. I am Benga Aboroa.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's now time for us to share with you breakfast headlines, what the front pages on the papers are saying. We're joined this morning by public affairs analyst, Professor Simeon Nna. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Prof.
And welcome, viewers.
Good to see you.
Good to have you. And thank you very much, for being a part of our celebrations here, even if it's not directly. Offline celebrations.
It's my pleasure.
If only the viewers knew what happens behind the scenes. Let's start off this morning with the Daily Independent newspaper. And on the front page of the Daily Independent, we see here, Benue killings, it's tragic, evil. We shall defeat them, Tinubu assures. Governor says, assailants are foreigners, they are Malians. And we don't mean that they listen to Naira Marley's music. Niger government bans commercial tricycles, bikes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's Niger government, I beg your pardon. NEPRC debunks allegation of underhand dealings in oil block allocation. ECOWAS meets in Ghana over exit of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. Bode George berates Atiku and others for discussing party merger. Customs generates 1.7 trillion naira target, exceeds Q1 target. Flight services face disruptions as NIMET workers commence strike. NIMET is striking. Wow.
Who will now tell us about
with these flash floods we've been experiencing? Interesting. Minister orders investigation into extortion of 5.2 million naira by NSCDC officers. Reports on that story is that they've been refunded 5 million naira, but maybe we'll talk about that later. IGP orders withdrawal of mobile policemen from VIPs nationwide. This should be like the third time.
Exactly. I was going to ask, it's always on the pages of newspapers.
I think you can start with that. You can go ahead with that story.
Well, this is not the first, second, or the third time we're hearing that. It's a recurring decimal that each time there's any breach, you'll see them coming and saying, we're going to withdraw all these officers that are sent to high net worth individuals.
Special protection units, yes.
But it's never happened. And it's never going to happen. I can tell you that for free, and you can go to the bank with it. It's never going to happen. Because Nigeria is a place where our rulers, have consistently done inconsistent things that would have taken us to the place that we ought to be. They have consistently done things that are very, very consistent with normal human beings and nature.
But Prof, do you support the withdrawal of special protection units for VIPs?
Who is a VIP?
What makes them a VIP? Do they have two heads?
No, they're...
No, excuse me.
CEOs
Excuse
of
me.
banks, superstars, like
So
David
what you're saying, is that
They're
if you
easy
can
targets.
pay for it, go for it. That's all you're saying.
So I mean, they also pay some amount. I'm sure
They pay
police
some,
generates
they pay some
substantial amount.
stipends,
Yes.
but the truth is that we don't have enough policemen. So why are you taking? I learned we have about 3,000 plus, 300,000 plus of policemen. Policing over 250 million. So they are grossly inadequate. Now, if I agree with maybe having these security details for our politically exposed people, and the reason being because some of them are sitting on a cake of gunpowder because of some of the things they have done. So if I allow that, why will ordinary people, just because they have wealth, now they want to now take policemen around them? I could equally go for it.
It's a
After all, how much are they paying for
People use it as a social type of symbol.
No, it is. See, in Nigeria, we have this status symbol thing, and we have this name thing. You give people big names. For instance, you call a driver logistics manager, and his head is swollen. I went to an occasion, and people were asked to introduce themselves. A housewife introduced herself as a domestic engineer. Love it. We love such big names. Recall that when GSM started, it was an in thing for people to carry 4 or 5 phones.
Yes.
And if you don't carry, you don't belong.
Exactly.
So it's a status symbol thing. And the earlier we begin to do away with such things. See, I was telling a story on radio yesterday of the Burkina Faso president.
Oh, yeah.
That was returning from France to his country. And just because he was looking simple, no security details, can you imagine what happened? The air hostess came and told him to please leave the business class and go to economy, that they were going to compensate him, just because they felt they had one big man that was coming to the aircraft. And what baffled me, it's not that air hostess. What baffled me was the reaction of the president. He said, "Why me?" And the lady began to talk. He kept quiet and was reading his papers. The lady left, came back again, and met another black person. So it occurred to him that it was a race thing. So he called the attention of the lady and said, "Why do this? Is it because I'm black?" The lady said, no, it's a matter of protocols. Long story cut short, because we don't have the whole time in the world. Now, eventually they brought the man in, gave him champagne and what have you, and they now later came to the Burkinabe president and said, "What do they offer you?" He said, "Just water." So by the time the aircraft taxied down in Ouagadougou, the military came, of course, to welcome him. One walked into the aircraft, saluted him, and now was taken him out of the aircraft. So it now dawned on them that this one too is more special than the one they were protecting. So at the end of the day, he got down and ordered that those guys should be arrested. The so-called CEO that was special customer to Air France and the air hostess were picked up. They tried all the crude with all the diplomatic whatever. The country judiciary said, no, these guys are going to go to jail for disrespecting our president. Now, why am I going that route? Now, this is a president of a country traveling out without the razzmatazz.
Yeah.
And look at the way he comported himself, even in the face of embarrassment. He didn't say, "This is why some of you cannot get to this position I am today." Because those who know how they get there. That's why they can talk like street urchins.
Right. Okay, we'll come back to talk more about the story about these VIPs and the multiple times the Nigerian police keeps stripping VIPs of police protection. But now let's connect with our correspondent Sage Ibrahim, who's in Benue State, to bring us updates regarding the state of insecurity in Benue. Good morning, Sage. Thank you for joining us this morning. What updates do you have? How are the people, the citizens in Benue faring?
Yes, good morning to Olive and everybody in the studio. Good morning, Nigerians. Indeed, Benue is fine. We're in Katsina-Ala local government, one of those local governments around the Sankera axis, which also includes Logo and Ukun local governments, that was attacked very recently. The situation here, of course, is calm. It's the daily concerns, but of course, latest developments, the National Security Advisor, as well as a delegation of others from the federal government, have paid a visit to the Benue State Governor, to get details and also to pay condolence as well. This provided the governor of the state an opportunity, to provide further details of the situation within these areas. He pegged the figure totally of those affected to be around 598, of course, bringing to the fore the importance of getting the rightly needed security that these communities really need at this moment, and also bringing to light some of the issues that they face. He also made, of course, some declarations with regards to the intent and motive of those who have been attacking the communities. And Oliver, I must say that the residents of these communities also share the same sentiments and the same reasons that the governor has given. They say this attack seems to be coordinated. It does not seem random. And also they are worried that some of these attacks, of course, and those that are involved in these attacks, are foreigners. So these are some of the nuances that we are getting from this community, painting a picture, of the level of the state of the situation in these communities.
All right. Can you also tell us, first of all, I'd like you to repeat where you say you are, just for a clearer understanding. And what are the people of Benue State saying? Because right behind you, it seems like everything is normal, while we do understand that in some other parts there's an unrest. Can you tell us what the people are saying?
Okay, so basically the people here are saying that, of course, they understand that the situation is what it is. The state governor is doing the best that he can. But their concern is sometimes when some of these attacks go on and security is deployed in these areas. Unfortunately, when the coverage is done and the media has established that the governor has visited these areas, the security also live with them. I mean, I sent an interview of one of those who have been affected by bandit attacks in Katsina-Ala, of course, not even the recent ones, and he alluded to some of these issues. The security are there for a while and then they leave, then leaving them back, to be prone to this, vulnerable to these attacks by these individuals.
Well, thank you so much, Sergey, for the report. We'll get back to you. I'm sure in a subsequent programming you would have more reports to file in. Thanks for your time. Let's come back to the studio. Let's take on that.
Before we take on Prof, I believe we have to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation here on Breakfast Central. Do stay with us. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central here on New Central Television, and we still have Professor Simeon here to analyze newspapers with us. Prof, just before we went on that break, we were speaking to our correspondent in Katsina-Ala, Sagir, and he's painted a picture of the security situation in Benue State. This VIP's come. It's been a sort of a mecca in the recent past. We've had the Minister of Defense visit Benue State. The National Security Advisor was there yesterday, and he said something quite instructive, that once these VIPs leave, it's almost performative, ritualistic thing. They just go, share condolence messages, and then we wait until the next attack. What do we need to do differently?
First of all, let me react to your correspondent's speech. He said something that I want to take with a pinch of salt, that the attackers are foreigners. I want to take that with a pinch of salt.
Governor Alia said they are from Mali.
And if that is the case, why have they not been taken out? Why is it that when security men are called during the attack, they will not arrive until the guys have done what they want to do and gone out of the place? Why? Why is it that intels have told them where these people are? Let me give you a typical example. During the Easter break, they were celebrating with their guns. So they know where they are. Why would they smoke them out? And you're telling me they are foreigners? I would take that with a pinch of salt.
So,
I mean, because if they are foreigners, there's no reason why our security men cannot take them out. Why? And they know where they are. They said, even the governor you are mentioning, said they retire to the hills, and after they listen, they go back there.
Yeah, but we have an Air Force.
So that's what I'm saying. So there should be a coordinated attack, and the Air Force telling us that at times, because of, do people stay in the forest with them? In those rocks, are the indigenous of Benue staying there with them? So why can't the Air Force smoke them out? And then the ground force will go and mop up what is left of the insurgents. Recall that Abacha said that once an insurgent lasts for over 24 hours, government is aware of what is going on. I want to believe differently that the government is paying a lip service to this. Recall during the time of Buhari, these Benue killings were almost on a weekly basis. And the governor then said, I want security. Even as it's happening now, are you aware that the NSA have said that the governor cannot give the vigilante guns? So why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are they allowing the insurgents to carry guns and they are not allowing people to carry their own guns to defend themselves? The former defense minister, what's his name again? Tiwa Danjuma, said his people should carry guns and defend themselves. And they were saying, where are they going to get the guns? And he told them, where others got theirs, go there and get their own. Now, look at these insurgents. I don't know what to say about it. Because people were arrested as Boko Haram. You say you have debriefed them. Now you recruit them in your army. Oh, what do you think? What do you think will happen? Because these people, once they cannot get the money, they are getting again, because how much is the army being paid? And you are entering there as a recruit, how much is your salary going to be? Compared to what they make in daily basis. You'll find out that most of them that they recruit in the army still go back to their trade. Somebody should be asking, how did they get the AK-47? How did they get the military rifles that they are parading around with? So it is, there's definitely the details, honestly.
Right. And I think a final argument or a final layer I'd like us to just quickly touch on regarding insecurity still is, for the most part, everyone has been saying, or majority of people have been saying, that the bulk of the responsibility lies at the feet of the president because he's the commander-in-chief.
The commander-in-chief.
However, yesterday we had Onyekachi Adekoya join us on the show, and he said that actually he feels differently, that he thinks that the bulk rests at the feet of the governors, and his explanation for that would be that the governors may not have command of the security apparatus, but they do have control. And several states, and then the question was, what exactly are they doing? If you can't look after citizens, you're getting security votes, If you can't, yes, there's no fixed architecture, but there are states that will have things like the Amotekons, the Ebubedikes, and all the other likes, to be able to sort of guarantee security within the states. I wanted to ask your thoughts. Do you agree with that thought process?
I refuse to agree with that. We are just banding grammars. You don't have command, you have control. How can you have control when you don't have command? No, how can? You can only have control when you have command. You cannot command. See, there was an incident that happened here in Lagos. What's that estate? What's that estate? No, not Omole, not Omole. The other estate, near Shangisha.
Okay.
Magodo. Thank you, my brother. Magodo. And the governor arrived and gave orders. The DSP said, no, we can't take orders from you. That's the way it is. They take orders from the IGP, the DIGs and the AIGs, not from the commissioner of police in a state.
But for the seating security meetings.
Yeah, those are what I can say as just a showman beast. Because at the end of the day,
on a weekly basis, with the commanders of the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and NSCDC. But hold your thoughts. We'll get back to you, Prof. We have Abdullahi from Kebbi State. Hello, good morning, Abdullahi.
Yes, we lost that.
Have you ever heard that he who pays the piper dictates the tone? So you can hold the meeting for all I care. If you don't have the airs, you don't have it. You can say what you like for all I care. The guy takes command from his boss. And that's the way it is. You can say whatever you like in that meeting, it doesn't pass the roof of that meeting. As long as the command does not agree with what has been said in that meeting, it doesn't go anywhere.
All right, Prof. Let's talk about, still talking on insecurity. Let's quickly run you a conversation that was had in Niger State. It's also on the front page of the Daily Independent. The Governor Omar, we have a video we'd also like you to watch very briefly. Just watch it for 15 seconds. He's saying that he's going to ban commercial tricycles, bikes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. He also made he put up a stern warning. Just take a look, take a listen.
Yeah. I think I will probably seen this video.
Nobody should carry any kind of health record again inside me. I have given you marching order, the security agencies. Anybody you find with a weapon, deal with him as an armed robber. So for parents, warn your children, warn your wards. From this moment, is 100%
First of all, he said anybody who is putting on dreadlocks, wearing dreadlocks, security agents should, in our lingua franca, should baba the hair.
And then destroy buildings where these quote-unquote criminals are found.
And so on. What do you make of that statement from a governor?
Well,
in order to stop insecurity.
I don't know.
I mean, dreadlocks.
Dreadlocks, musicians wear dreadlocks, and they are not criminals. Some influencers wear dreadlocks. So I don't think a blanket ban on dreadlocks will be good. However, when he said people should not carry gun and then banning tricycles, that I support both sink and liner. But let me tell you for free, and you can go to the bank with it, that the comment that anybody caught with gun, the insurgency, what, are they not carrying guns? How many of them have been tried? Many have been arrested. How many of them have been tried? See, the time this Boko Haram issue started, and they were talking of, no, not even Boko Haram, the time this grazing started, recall, it was during the Buhari regime that they now started this open grazing. At the same time, you can go that it started in Ghana. The head of state of Ghana came out and said, if you see any cow on the street, shoot at sight. In one day, they killed over 100 cows, and that was the end of it. That was the end of it in Ghana. They now thought of ranching, which is the way to go all over the world. But today, they are still, speaking grammar concerning open grazing. In the 21st century, cows go to people's farms, destroy their farms, and when the person talks, you kill the person, and when the person reacts, the law will catch the owner of the farm that reacted because his farm was destroyed. And the person that destroyed the farm will go scot-free. What kind of a country is this? I don't understand the law. Somebody should please tell me, what kind of country is this? But I don't understand any longer.
Professor Simeon Onna, it really is upsetting to be having these kind of conversations. But as it is our responsibility here, we would continue to highlight these conversations and give voice to the complaints of the Nigerian citizens and sort of have balanced conversations. But like we said at the start of the show, asking people to cut their hair as a measure to combat insecurity will never make sense.
No, it's a no for me.
Professor Simeon, thank you so much for your time. Professor Nna. All right, we'll now take you to Which Way Nigeria as we yet again bring another thought-provoking monologue. Stay tuned.
Lagos, the center of excellence, the so-called city that never sleeps. But at night, when the sun goes down, Lagos doesn't stay awake. Lagos goes dark. Take a drive along Mobolaji Bank Anthony Way. Try navigating the vast stretches of Ikorodu Road. Better yet, attempt the Lekki Epe Expressway after sundown. Or better yet, ask yourself, what can't you see? No lights, no visibility, just pitch black roads, potholes you can't predict, and the ever-present risk of danger. This is 2025. This is Lagos, the economic powerhouse of Nigeria, a state whose internally generated revenue eclipses the GDP of several West African nations. And yet, for something as basic as keeping the streets lit, nothing, radio silence. How does a city this wealthy, this global, this ambitious fail at something fundamental as lighting up the streets? Because this isn't just about darkness, it's about danger. It's about livelihoods under threat. How many drivers have rammed into broken down vehicles because they couldn't see them in time? How many robberies have taken place under the cover of night? How many women have been harassed and alleys soaked in shadow? We hear talk, smart city, agenda, digital innovation, sustainability, all buzzwords. But if your citizens can't walk safely after 8 p.m., if traders have to pack up early for fear of what nightfall brings, then let's be honest, what kind of smart city is that? The African Cities Research Consortium tells us only 20% of communities in Lagos have functional streetlights. Yes, you heard that right, 20% in a city of over 20 million. This is not a resource issue. This is a respect issue. It's not the money that's missing, it's the will, the priority, the leadership. Neglect this loud should not be normal. But in Lagos, it's become routine. Billions in taxes, billions in IGR, and still the streets remain in darkness. So we ask, where is the Ministry of Energy? Where's the Lagos State Electricity Board? Where is the political will? We're simply asking for the right to see at night. The darkness in Lagos isn't just physical, it's symbolic, and it's time to turn the lights back on now. Lagos deserves better. Good morning, Nigerians.
You have to be very careful if you're driving in Lagos, especially when it's dark, if you're leaving in the early hours of the morning and you're going back late at night. Thank you so much, Benga. That was indeed a good one. Professor, I'm sure you also drive around Lagos. Do you struggle with the darkness that befalls the smart city?
Because of what you just said, I don't drive at night any longer.
Oh, okay.
I don't drive at night any longer. And that tells you what the politicians think about. The politicians are not thinking about you. They are thinking about the next election.
Which is what we see now.
These are basic.
That's what they think about.
I mean, having lights is not, you're not asking for invincible, for skyscrapers or flying taxis. These are basics. And I think it's embarrassing for a state like Lagos not to have functional streetlights. And they're not doing anything about it.
It's very, very embarrassing, but I can tell you for free that they are not going to do anything about it, except people begin to shout and shout and shout and shout. Now you'll see them now start in some areas where the personalities are living, so that the shout will
look. Take a look at the image. Take a look at it.
There are serious darkness. Even the ones, even take for instance the Mobilajo Macantoni that they tried to leave
to the airport.
For some time now, some of the lights are not and nobody's doing anything about it.
Have you been to Lekki Ajah Ekpe Expressway? It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
It's
I'm sure when you drive, your
between 10:30 and 11, you cannot pass the Oshodi Bridge.
You can't.
You can't. You'll be attacked by street urchins.
You know what this reminds me of? In the Holy Book, Genesis 1:2, and it says, the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. But the Spirit of God, it's just that the Spirit of God is not moving over the face of this earth. I hope we can move over to verse 3 that says, let there be light.
And that was light.
Let's hope there will be light.
You know, our guest today said that word hope. We have to be careful with
hope
it.
Is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yes.
You know, and I think I learned from that.
Yes.
We don't hope. Statement. You need to work.
There has to be a plan.
The government
as a responsible government, needs to address this.
I always say this every time.
A public
that if we can have one
safety
government
emergency
that can fix our power challenges in Nigeria, they will not need to do too much to campaign for re-election.
Hope is not a strategy.
If they can just
it's
pick
a destination.
Power and fix power. They won't need to really do so much in trying to campaign, you know. The facts will speak, your work will speak for you. But we have to get out of the studio. More exciting, I won't say more exciting, Breakfast Central is the most exciting program, but stick around for other exciting and informative shows this morning on News Central Television. Thank you to our online audience. Thank you to everyone who constantly reshares our content. Thank you to our wonderful guests. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And those who joined us virtually as well.
Have a fantastic day.
Have a fantastic day. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I'm Joe Hansen, and I'm going to say it because the president is back in Nigeria, so we say Udabo, right?
Yes, Udabo.
Not over.
No bonjour.
Yeah, no bonjour, no over.
Not over, no lighter.
But when it goes to Italy, it's out of a dirt sheet.
There was a humorous video that's trending on social media that the president just visited Nigeria from France.
I'm not around. Guys, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.